Did someone leave you high and dry and you're distraught? Did they leave you empty and broken? It's not fun watching those you hold dear walk out on you, especially when they peace out when you need them the most in your life. Yes, there are people who can walk away from you, and hear me when I tell you this. When people can walk away from you, let them walk. I don't want you to talk another person into staying with you, into loving you, into calling you, into caring about you, into coming to see you, into staying attached to you. I mean, hang up the phone. It doesn't matter how attracted you are to them or how wonderful they are. Whether they did you a huge favor years ago or what the situation is, if a person can walk away from you, then let them walk. One of the hardest things in the world to do is to watch someone walk away. It's not only an emotional blow, it's a blow to the ego. No one wants to be rejected. Whatever the reason for the split, you have to believe that it was for the best. And really, it really always is. Remember, you just don't see it right away, but hindsight is 20/20, right? Just trust that everything happens for the right reason, and you are always where you need to be when you need to be there, even if you don't understand it right away. Just let them walk away. You'll really be glad you did. Every relationship in your life is for a reason and for a season. Your commitment to your family should be for a lifetime. Other relationships may have term limits. When someone walks away, don't try to talk them into staying with you, into loving you, into calling you, caring about you, or coming to see you, or even staying attached to you. I need you to understand that your destiny is not tied to those who leave you. John writes in 1 John chapter 2 verses 19. He said, "They went out from us, but they did not really belong to us. For if they had belonged to us, they would have remained with us. But their going showed that none of them belonged to us." People leave you because they are not joined to you. And if they're not joined to you, you can't make them stay. Let them go. And it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that their part of the story is over. And you've got to know when people's part in your story is over, so you don't keep trying to raise the dead. You've got to know when it's dead. You've got to know when it's over. You've got to know when a relationship is over and graciously say goodbye, knowing that whatever relationships God means for you to have, He will provide. Stop begging them to stay. Let them go. Clinging to a relationship whose season has ended will not only lead to heartbreak. After Lot left him, Abraham entered a new level of God's blessing. When Orpah left Naomi and went back to Moab, Ruth stayed with her, and both Naomi and Ruth were blessed by God. You've got to know who belongs in your life and who doesn't. Sometimes you just have to accept and know that it has nothing to do with you. Letting go and walking away is one of the hardest things to do, especially if the strings of your heart are still attached. Yeah. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it really hurts, but it's not always about you. Sometimes it's about them and what they need to get from life and for their personal happiness and well-being. You are not the center of the universe for anyone's life except your own. And we all want different things in our lives, no matter how compatible we may be or how well we get on. When someone recognizes a strong need or desire that grows or doesn't fade, and they feel they cannot fulfill that passion or desire that they have while being with you, then they must ultimately leave or stay resenting you. Is that what you really want for you or for them? Do you now see why you need to let go of people who choose to leave your life? Sometimes it may be a new career, a place they always wanted to live, something they want to do, but to do it alone and not have to commit to a time frame of being with a person. This really is about them and not you. So let them go so that they can be fulfilled. Sometimes people will do whatever they want whenever they want. They won't cast you a second of thought. Call them whatever names you want, but I doubt they will ever care. Yes, some people will never change. They may have promised to change or may have had no interest in changing. After all, they think they're perfect, so why suffer with someone who will never see you as someone of any significance? Their ego and degree of self-importance blinded them to your pain and suffering. Have you waited up for them to come home? Did they ignore or belittle you? Did they forget your birthday? Did they forget to take you out? Was your relationship very one-sided and all about them, and they decided to leave you for someone else without casting a thought of your way? If so, let go. Breathe a sigh of relief. You had a lucky escape. Count your blessings. It's no loss at all. It's not a loss. It may hurt for what seems like an eternity, but without you knowing it, a new person will appear in your life who turns out to be your destiny. You should never demand someone to stay in your life. Choosing to be together involves willingness. Should anyone fail to show willingness, staying should never really be an option anymore. If you hold on to people who are no longer willing to stick around, you will eventually end up torturing yourself and accumulate bruises that will hardly heal. Listen, bro. Listen, sis. You don't deserve a half-present company. They may physically be with you, but their heart is already somewhere else. Do not hinder them to be where they want to be. Set them free and go on your way. Let them leave so you can be happy. You can never truly find joy in a relationship that chokes you every single day. Don't hold on to someone who is a foot away from the exit. Let them go the moment you notice their signal of detachment. Wish them well. Forgive them for leaving you. Be strong enough to endure loneliness for a short while. For certainly, someone who is willing to stay will come your way. Letting it or them go may not be the easiest choice, but it could be the best choice we have left. It doesn't mean that you don't love them anymore. It just simply means that we love them enough to let them find their happiness too. Just like it doesn't mean that we don't consider them as important anymore. It just means that we are also important. The space they emptied may throb for a while, but that's totally fine. The truth is that people can leave at any time. It just happens. Sometimes people leave because of job opportunities. Sometimes they leave because they're mad about something. Sometimes it's just time for them to move on. I can tell you that every time someone leaves, even for the right reasons, it hurts. I once believed that it was something that I would get used to over time, but I don't think you ever really get used to it. So what do you do when people want to leave? Whether they're leaving your church, your company, or your life, what do you do? Well, as hard as it might be, just let them go. Talk with them or pray with them if they're interested, but don't spend any energy trying to convince people into staying with you when they're sure that they want to leave. You just have to trust God in all this. You just have to trust Him to take care of them. You just have to trust Him to take care of you. And God doesn't need them to do what He wants to do in your life. He's also big enough to take care of them. Just let them go and let it go. Trust God and just say goodbye. Because there comes a point in your life when you realize who matters, who never did, who won't anymore, and who always will. So don't worry about people from your past. There's a reason why they didn't make it to your future. I encourage you to examine your relationships, your friendships, and your partnerships carefully. I guarantee you that when you finally find the courage to let go of what doesn't serve you, it will be one of the most rewarding, most freeing practices of your life. You are good enough just as you are, and there is no need to modify who you are for others' approval or validation. Because self-mastery is a great goal, and it is achieved out of a person's inner motivation. So let go and let God, and everything will fall into place. If you are holding on to someone who doesn't belong or who is not intended to be in your life, the word for you today is let them go. You cannot help what life will bring to the table. You cannot control what others will do to you or themselves, or what will happen next. However, what you can control is your response. Do not give your enemies the enjoyment of seeing you in despair. Do not give the past the chance to be better than the future. Choose to live your best life, dear, here and now. One of the hardest things for any man to do is to let go. As human beings, we are deeply attached to whatever we value. Be it living things or objects, our emotions and sense of sacrifice goes in the direction of our value system. And that is why when we lose someone close to us, it hurts. The memories are a part of us, and the hopes that we could have become very heavy to bear. And God made us this way. But do not get me wrong, God doesn't want us to bear the pains of every hurt. God put it there for himself. I know that sounds funny, but he put it there for himself so that we can value the gifts that he brings to our lives. It is God's love that allows us to hold those things very dear to our hearts. I said all these for this reason. In your attempt to move on and finally let go of the burdens of the past, the first thing you must realize is that the fact that being someone who values people and sees beyond their faults, that attribute that seems like vulnerability, that attribute of being someone who loves wholeheartedly, that attribute is not a weakness. Yes, there are a lot of people who will not value that attribute, who might want to take advantage of you because of it. There are people who will try to hurt you. As a matter of fact, you might feel hurt the most. You might be the most affected emotionally in a scandal or an act of betrayal. However, do not let those things push you to lose the person that you are, because that heart is beautiful. The world definitely needs more people like you. Humans need more people like you surrounding them. Your consistency is doing more good than you think. You're affecting and changing more lives than you will ever know. So do not lose that beautiful self that you are just because people do not understand the value of what you give them. Be beautiful. That said, life isn't a bed of roses, and that's what makes it beautiful. The good, the bad, and the ugly, all wrapped up in one big ball called life. We all go through the thorns that the roses bear in a bid to savor its scent and appreciate its beauty. In the same way we attempt to reach for the beautiful things in this life, it is not uncommon to meet challenges, pain, hurt, or disappointments. If that is the season you're in right now, know that you're not the only one. Everyone goes through it. Many people just have a better way of covering it up than others. But you see, it is time to move beyond the thorns and to the roses themselves. You need to recognize that some seasons in your life require you to be alone. I know it hurts and you do not understand what's going on, but trust that God is in charge of your life and that he loves you very dearly. Trust that he will not allow pain and hurt to overwhelm you. He is with you through every emotional high and low. He's faithful. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the reality of whatever loss you feel, remember that you are not alone and that God loves you and he loves you very dearly and that you are not alone. This could be a chance for you to reorganize, for you to see clearer, to have your sense of purpose reset, and more importantly, a chance to work on your relationship with God, to pay attention to what he has for you. You know, sometimes we're so carried away with the gifts that God puts in our lives that we forget the giver. Maybe that was what the relationship was to you. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not implying that God took his gift so he could get your attention. God is not the kind of father that teaches using pain as a tool. His love and care are always evident in this season. That loss is just something that happens in life. Everyone has time in their lives where they stand face to face with challenges or loss. It happens to everyone who is a participant of this life, good or bad, male or female, or whatever culture or tribe. However, God's faithfulness and love for us is independent of our situation. But it's very obvious, especially in our situations. Take this time out to fall headfirst into the embrace of God's love for you. In other words, pay attention to the giver. It is a time to build and to get better. As humans, it is very possible for us to have our sense of worth attached to someone or something. If peradventure loss comes, we lose much more than that thing or that person. We lose a sense of worth and value we attach to those things and people as well. It might have been someone who encouraged us and now has turned his back, or a job that gave us a sense of security but has now been lost. We lose the comfort, the sense of hope and security that those relationships bring. So when we lose something, I understand if we feel it's a big deal. If we explain to people and they do not just get it, but we feel very deeply and emotionally hurt, I understand. Pain in the heart is usually deeper than the word the mouth gives to express them. You see, it is time for you to have your sense of value and worth, and it's something more stable and valuable. In other words, it is time for you to get better, to get another look at things, to rediscover yourself and love yourself, to see yourself for who you truly are. It is time to obey God's voice and let go of those things and those relationships that God has told you to let go of. God is faithful. And He is good. If He's leading you out of something, you can bet your life on the fact that it's because He has seen ahead and He knows what will happen. It's time to turn our backs on the past and allow the future to embrace us. Lay it down and allow God. Let Him be in charge of your life. Remember, He loves you. God bless you. There are certain times when God separates you from certain things or people, which can be very hurtful. You might not understand the need for such separation, especially where God needs you to cut ties with a lot of people who matter to you. Who doesn't feel that hurt? In another light, sometimes God can cause those people to just begin to leave you. They begin to exit your life one by one, and you're wondering why the people who matter to you are leaving you at a time when you probably need them the most. It is important, however, to see the perfect hand of God in every situation that concerns you. How that He's intentional about you, and understand that this season of separation is Him preparing you for something great, which you need to have capacity for. So the question is, do you believe? When God separates you or calls you into separation, remember that it's for a purpose. There's always a reason behind every action that He takes. So don't be scared of going into the separation room. It's not easy, but there's so many things to learn from that period. So many reasons God might need you to be in that room for. And God needs your audience. Many times we get so busy doing our daily routine that we barely have time for God. Now, this is not to say that you don't serve God or you even have your quiet time. God just wants you to Himself.
If you've never cashed a $72,556 paycheck, then I've got good news for you. My name is Tyler Devereaux, and last week I gave away 89 Think Bigger packages. And at my next live event, I plan to give away nearly 150. You see, I manage a privately held investment company called the Multifamily Capital Partners. And we are continually looking for partners in a few specific areas throughout the country. Now, if you're seeing this video, that means that you live within a 50-mile radius of what we've identified as a prime market for these types of multifamily apartment deals that we want to do right now. And by we, I mean both you and I. Now, my investment company is providing what we call a Think Bigger package to help you find, fund, and finalize your first profitable multifamily real estate deal. All you need to do in order to get that opportunity is complete my training. That way you know what to do and how to do it. So to assist you in that, I'm holding a free live multifamily revealed event in your area where we'll show you how to use capital that is readily available to help you profit from multifamily deals in your area. So your Think Bigger package includes my proven step-by-step system for investing in multifamily real estate deals, which will give you access to literally tens of millions of dollars in capital that, listen, needs to be put to work. It also includes vital connections with investment partners, myself included, who have the portfolio to help you actually get the deal done. Just follow the link in this video to get your Think Bigger package. And full disclosure, I'm limiting this to 150 total. So click the link below and get your spot before it fills up.
Okay, this is big. Raid Shadow Legends made me a champion, and everyone can get it. Me? Him? Anyways, here's how it happened.
This is the tale of an orphan adopted by the Shadowkin, who grew to become a mighty warrior. It was a long and difficult journey. He suffered greatly by the hands of his master,
Not my best look.
but kept training, facing every challenge, never slowing down.
Ow, dude, my mouse hand.
Never slowing down!
Until he learned the art of blade and bow, as well as some other darker arts,
Now we're talking.
transforming the poor orphan into a true Shadowkin ninja.
This is so awesome! Energy arrow, Shadow Strike.
Raid Shadow Legends. Download now and play for free.
in order to communicate certain truths to your spirit, which staying amongst a multitude would not permit. Now he needs to call you forth. Come out from among them. Now, many times it takes being alone to hear God. Now, rather than separate that time intentionally when you feel the need to be alone with God, we don't want to take that step. We'll rather drown ourselves in activities of giving excuses of some sort. Take that break and listen to His voice. His voice gives direction. It's so easy to pray and ask God for so many things that we many times forget that He's not a robot that simply carries out your biddings. You ask God for where to go, which course to take, who to approach, who to choose, yet you don't wait to listen. So how would you hear Him? Do you remember Elijah in the Bible? How that in the loud thunderings and the noise, God wasn't there, but right in that still moment, He spoke. Sometimes, God needs you away from the noise to give you directions to those questions in your heart. Now, God needs you to learn. There are certain things that you won't learn until you have to stand on your own. Till you are separated from people, there are some things that won't dawn on your mind. Now, when you constantly have support systems around you all the time, who in this case don't also see what God will have you learn, they can be a distraction. As humans, we naturally tend to think that we're acting in the right way. We get the permission or approval of our friends, and when He needs you to learn something, He causes a temporary separation. Sometimes you need to let your lot go. No matter how much Abraham loved his dearest cousin, in order to fulfill the purpose of God for his life, Lot needed to go. God wants us to follow Him and fulfill destiny. In doing that, there's some people that will be detrimental to you and your destiny. So God allows those people to go so that you can have a fulfilled life. Now, God removes anything or anyone that comes in the way of fulfilling His plans for your life. There's a path that God has created for you, and He would want you to walk in that path in the course of your life, and there would be distractions of some sort, people and things that will want to deter you from that path. Now, God, who does not want you to walk in that path, therefore, He removes them. It may seem harsh and hurtful at first, but when you understand that everything happens for a reason, you will see why God leaving them is a favor. Now, God has good things in store for you, and even better things than you could ever have imagined. Now, some people may no longer be with you because God is trying to elevate you and take you to higher places. Sometimes we hold on to thinking that it's God's best that we could have, not knowing that God has greater and better things in store for us. Now, when it comes to God elevating us or taking us higher, the presence of some people in your life will not make that happen. Sometimes the presence of these people will make things even worse, and sometimes it can make you stagnant. And this is not the plan of God for you as His child. You must learn to trust in the wisdom of God because He is the only one who knows and sees everything. So His decisions for you are the best. Now, when we place our lives in the hands of God, He's always protecting us. Even when we do things outside His will, He would always bring us back because He loves us so much. A quick story. I had a friend who was really close to me. For me, God brought him at a time where I was giving up on friendships. I barely had real friends, so I would pray for God to send me one real friend. And yeah, God brought him. I'm certain that God brought him. He helped in my healing process, especially from hurt and betrayal. He was really there through everything. For us, nothing was strong enough. Then a time came where God spoke to us that it was time for us to separate, that He needed us apart. I couldn't bear it. We both couldn't. Like, how? Why? Did we do something wrong? Have we stopped fulfilling purpose? I needed answers. Unfortunately, I didn't get any other than we had to separate. Whether it was temporary or permanent, we weren't sure. We had to yield to God's instructions at the end of the day. Because we didn't, things began to go the other way. Well, that's however a story for another day. But the point I'd like to make is, God needed both our attentions. Indeed, He brought us together. But we needed to be constantly reminded that He's the one who did the bringing together, and He's the one at the center of it all where everything happens. We began to forget this, and He needed time for us to be apart to remind us that nothing and neither of us shall take the place of God in our hearts. So yes, God separates you sometimes to teach you life lessons, for you to remember that nothing is too big or too small for you to lay down on the altar of Jesus. Should anything be too big? It might be church activities. Oh yes, you're actively active in church and everyone knows that. But when he needs you to check your heart and be sure that your service is with and in the right attitude, he could tell you to take a break from the units you're serving. Listen, that period of separation is necessary. Certain things would not fall off until you're alone. I remember one time when the Holy Ghost told a friend to not take up an executive position in church and even leave every unit she was in. It sounded like magic. She was, however, sure that he was the one speaking to her. She obeyed, and she's so much better for it. Lastly, separation indeed is preparation. For God to launch you into a newer or greater walk or a higher level of something, he calls you apart. Now, this season is meant to prepare you for that which God wants to bestow upon you. Now, God might have so much to give and you're not ready to receive. He calls you apart for training and strategizing. And this is why you must trust God. Now, one consciousness the period of separation creates in you is that God will never leave nor forsake you. He's always there with you. He's got your back always. And I mean always. So when he says retreat and let's replan, be sure something exciting is coming and it's for your good. The season might not be smooth. Actually, it would not be smooth, but you have a guide, and your guide is the best that you can have in this world because he knows when to constantly rush in at the nick of time. He's never late. Do you remember that training period, that period of seclusion from the army? Now that's far more important than any other aspect because it's what determines how every other aspect will look like. So my question is, do you trust God enough to take you through and see you through your season of separation?